empowers navigators, your nurses, to organize the data, to shepherd patients along so that
I believe a lot of AI agents will replace the old jobs, but it will also create a lot of new jobs. Our vision in Agent X is to be the fuel of AI agent builder for the enterprise.
Factory still wants some agents and logic model. They understand the factory process and factory logic.
Expertise, we're not trying to replace the human-led drug discovery process, but really to integrate it so we can try to find better drugs smarter and faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emily. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey! Welcome, welcome. Hey, how are you?
Good.
This is Jay, my co-founder.
Good, yeah. Well, so this is your office?
Yeah. Welcome to the Anvil office. It's upstairs and downstairs, and upstairs is usually operations and design, and downstairs is where we do assembly and testing.
Oh.
Which one do you want to go first?
Maybe we go from the downstairs.
Okay,
I think
let's do it. Yeah, come on in.
Most of the time, this is like the secret place.
Watch your head. Yeah.
在过去这一年，是 AI 很蓬勃发展，很多事情都瞬息万变。在过程当中，我也在思考，有哪些东西是我没看到的，哪些东西是我不知道的。
This small space we have here, we actually can ship about 50 to 60 robots every month. They're all built and manufactured and assembled in-house.
Amazing.
Yeah.
With this like garage type.
Yeah. True garage startup vibe. I think once you get the feel for it, like you can do some like pretty complicated motions, right? Like passing your fingers between each other and being able to move around. Yeah, but it does take a little bit of learning and getting used to because you are kind of doing this mental math in your head.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, like how I move affects how the robot moves.
AI 这一个局里面，创业家要能够胜出，他必须要有很深的产业知识跟经验，还要很能够了解产业的痛点，而且语言不是限制，国家的边界不是限制。自从 ChatGPT 还有 Cloud 一出来完之后，基本上已经颠覆了整个事业或是既有公司的营运方式。那我们自己本来是有点焦虑吧，因为也是到处去看。哇，到底这个外在的世界发生什么情况？去年我去了 Stanford， 去了矽谷待了2个月，直接就待在 AI 的重镇。在过程当中有很深刻的自我反思，究竟在 AI 的成长过程当中，台湾可以扮演什么角色？我们自己在 AI 的价值链里面做了哪些的价值创造
Okay, I'm ready.
我很积极的去走遍很多不同的国家，希望说可以把这个世界市场从海外带回来台湾，把国际市场上厉害的创业家带来亚洲。
So in the pitch, we will see kind of like this J-curve forecast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I could deliver it on the slide level.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Because everybody. So you want the hockey stick, okay?
Yes. How is that? Yeah.
I'm thinking about how I can, restructure your ideas, but put it into something sounds more terrified.
Yeah. That is why yield improvement still hosting the semiconductor industry billions every year. Quality issues stay open for days, machines stay down for too long, costing manufacturing $1.5 trillion in downtime every year.
Phil， 你有看到 Andrew 的这些 comment 吗？在 Line 里面，他有稍微给一些。
有，他们的部分对我会再修正的。
没错，我刚才称赞那个胡须章很好吃，我说你一定也很怀念胡须章。
要回来。
没错，要回去了。
真的很好吃。
When we pull out the sound recording royalties here, you can see that this artist has earned $712,000 in unclaimed royalties, or in publishing royalties that are sitting unclaimed right now.
Did you use the latest script that I provided with to you? Because I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm using I think the V5, right?
Yeah, the V5, yeah, I think, and then it should be the one I sent to June, yes. Let's review the script first.
Yeah, check.
Our HQ in Power Pro, and we have a strong industrial base in Vietnam. And for one robot, we are using the special AI model to simulate, to build and deploy the robot faster in the real world environment. And we have the major customer like
Hey, this is not the script. I think it's not the script you sent to us. Like, please read the script that you sent to us. Firstly, the DemoDay pitch is different from the GDC pitch. It's more about like telling a story.
等于我们周末弄的东西他们都没看啊。
对啊，他没有 review， 我们2天前，3、4天前就给他。
对，他们很清楚知道到底今天的 progress 是什么，但今天的状况根本就是它不是一个好的 pitch 啊，因为它连 market addressing 都没有列。
对。
现在是 mute 嘛？
是。然后，所以我想跟大家讲，就是说每个第一个会一定 group practice 一定要到，然后中间我们给的 feedback 一定要马上跳。其实这些每一个我们周末遇到都有讲，然后我们永远都是 with practice with the latest version。对。
不然我们今天来就是那你要再看 scripts， 那我们干嘛约那么早的时间？
对啊，而且也浪费大家其他团队的时间。
我们也不知道未来会怎么改变。其实很多时候我也觉得我们不是在看投哪间公司会成功，我觉得反而是投完之后，这一个创办人跟 SparkLabs 团队怎么样一起把成果创造出来。那你如果这个时候你不努力往前追，很有可能这个天下就已经是别人的。
我现在跑的是在老鼠的，对不对？我还有一个是完全是 patient 的那个如果出来的话就更 convinced。
I think this journey, or perhaps it's the same with doing something new, it's a lot of self-discovering, right? You do have to ask yourself, is this something you really want to do?
This is the first time this is ever running.
Are we moving fast enough right now? Are we doing everything we need to do to just be accelerating forward? So that's the first one. And the second one is, are we accelerating in the correct direction?
One question that I sometimes ask myself, can I do it better? Knowing that done is better than perfect, but I always try to push the boundaries of myself.
We are providing the global services, and we don't think like the time zone gonna be the constraint for us. And definitely starting a startup is super hard.
SparkLabs team was a very good partner. They're very willing to help, very eager to help in some ways. Sometimes I cannot match their speed. They're pushing us into a better velocity. Otherwise, I would have given up.
很多人都说这几年台湾的新创变少了，我自己是认为那是可能是因为我们作为创投并不够努力，我们并没有在更早的时间内找出这些非常有潜力的新创，所以我觉得我们一个很重要的责任就是更早的在茫茫的沙堆里面把这些钻石找出来，让他们真的有一天能够变成大钻石，在世界上发光发亮。
Anvil makes it very easy to build and deploy physical AI applications.
We're building an AI chief revenue officer that turns every seller into sort of a 10-person team that is a fully operating sales team.
Pravita is building the next AI clinical workforce to make sure that no patient ever falls through the crack in their cancer journey.
We are an AI-enabled drug discovery company. We focus on designing small molecule drugs that target RNA that play a key role in diseases.
Agentic, which is basically a multi-agent orchestration platform for enterprises.
My company is Audio Number, and we help songwriters find missing royalties.
We make AI-native robots for manufacturing and defense at cost-competitive price with the most advanced technologies in the market.
For Mirror AI, we are building AI for smart manufacturing. We have a Mississippi large model AI agent to help manufacturers to improve their quality, improve their equipment efficiency, hoping to help them to adopt AI much more easier.
When you start your pitch, you're like, a whole generation of people are, some of your engineers are talking, this is a $1.5 trillion problem.
Yeah.
For example, let me tell you about Fred.
Yeah.
Fred is a senior engineer who runs machinery scraping, like blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Do you understand? That's how you intro that.
This great group of people really pushing forward a mission to help Taiwan's startup ecosystem become that much more prominent and capable and achieving new heights and goals. And so that's why I'm that much more excited for what SparkLabs is doing, is because they know that there are gaps and there's holes, and you've got to fill in those holes, and you've got to bring the right people, the right companies, the right mentors and advisors from across the world so that Taiwan can become better.
我们会知道，其实这个 AI 时代来临，对很多人造成了很大的冲击跟挑战。那尤其是在过去这2年，我们发现很多传统大公司现在都面临了转型的挑战。我们也发现人才的供给已经不是单纯的劳力付出或者是知识付出，因为很多的工作可能程式机器人或实体机器人，可能很快就会取代了我们的工作。那我觉得这个环境之下，反而更诱发我们去思考，到底我们自己的核心价值是什么？到底企业存在的愿景目标是什么？这个解决问题的过程当中参与其中，然后去见证这些改变的发生，哇，那个成就感非常的高。我们现在就是在形塑未来啊，相信就会看见。你如果认为这件事情做得到，我想全宇宙都会集结他们的力量来帮助你。
I think the vision and mission of SparkLabs is amazing.
You guys are entrepreneurs as well. So I think there's a mutual understanding.
I know that this connection will last years and years and years.
Thanks SparkLabs teams for trusting us.
Appreciate every minute of it.
I think we're both very excited about where we're going to be in the next 6 months, 12 months. This is going to be a very exciting chapter of the company.
This is the best in the world.
Dream big and go global.
Dream big, 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 go global.
Welcome to SparkLabs Taiwan DemoDay 11. Let's get started! I am Michael Chiu, the founder and managing partner of SparkLabs Taiwan. Thank you to all the investors, mentors, startup founders, and also our friends who will be here with us today. Every demo day is special, but I feel this demo day is especially important. Over the past few years, AI has been redefined by a lot of models. We talk about better models, better reasoning, faster inference, and new benchmarks. But in 2026, the real question is no longer just about how powerful the model it is. Last year, after attending the NVIDIA GTC 2025, I was shocked by how fast AI was reshaping every industry. It also made me realize that the gap between Asia and the US is not just about technology. It's all about mindset, speed, ambition, and ecosystem density. So I decided to go deeper. I went to Stanford and stayed in the Bay Area for over 2 months to better understand why Silicon Valley is different. I realized the strongest founders don't only think about features, Then think about markets, incentives, distribution, regulation, capital, and the ecosystem design. Silicon Valley moves very fast, but best people are not just busy, they are focused. They know what matters and what doesn't matter. Stanford and the Bay Area remind me that environment matters. When you are surrounded by ambitious, generous, and intellectual, honest people, your own standard changes. Leadership also evolves. Workflow has been redesigned. Talents are very different, and the decision velocity also becomes very fast. One pattern we are seeing very clearly is about the winning companies. It's not always as the ones that with the best models. They are the ones that closer to the real world. That is why AI native startups can move very fast. With half of the team, they can sometimes move at 3 times the faster than the speed because they are not carrying the legacy system, the legacy process, and the legacy mindsets. For humans, having the best model is not enough. If you apply AI to the wrong process, or the organization cannot change fast enough, you can still lose. So the gap is widening. The window to act is closing very fast. For investors and corporate partners are here today. This is the opportunity. You can find the founders who are close to the workflow, data, and the customer, because that is where the next generation of AI companies will be built. One big question is, can AI really create value inside the companies, factories, hospitals, financial institutions, and the physical world? This is why today's DemoDay theme is Agentic AI and physical AI. Agentic AI represents the shift from AI assistant to AI as an operator. It is not only helping us to write, search, or summarize, it helps us to plan, execute, coordinate workflows, and to connect with the real business systems. Physical AI represents another major shift. AI is moving from screens to the real robots, machines, factories, vehicles, medical devices, and the industrial environments. This is where AI meets the real world. Taiwan has been proven that we are quite essential to the global AI supply chain. But the next question is more ambitious. Can Taiwan also become the important source of AI native startups? Can we move from powering the infrastructure to building the applications and the companies that define the next wave? Taiwan got a lot of resources that we are now matching with the right resources as well. SparkLabs Taiwan is not just a VC and accelerator. We are also a global launchpad for founders who want to build beyond Taiwan and compete in the global markets. Today's DemoDay is not just about stories. It's a signal where we believe the next generation of startups is going. AI that can act, AI that can move, and the AI that can create measurable value in the real world. Open source has become one of the most important forces shaping AI infrastructure today. This is why we want to host this conversation today. We bring the global mice to Taiwan. We are honored to welcome Brian, the general partner of SparkLabs AI and an advisor to SparkLabs Group. Brian is one of the most respected leaders in the global open source community. He was the co-founder and the first president of Avalanche Software Foundation and the former CTO and the CIO of the World Economic Forum, and has served on the boards of EFF, Mozilla Foundations, and peace. There's so many. We are also excited to welcome you from Anthropic, with a maker of Cloud, who leads the startup partnership in APAC as our moderators. works closely with a lot of startup founders, especially in AI fields and the startup ecosystem across the region. So he brings very relevant perspective on how startups can build with the frontier AI at scale globally. Today's Fireside Chat is the next layer of AI, from open infrastructure to the global markets. This is a very important conversation of SparkLabs Taiwan, and this is exactly what we want. To have host this conversation at our DemoDay 11. Thank you so much for coming. I also want to extend my gratitude to all the sponsors, partners, and investors who continue to support our ecosystem. And also I want to thank for SparkLabs' incredible team and founders who worked so hard and the dedication in making this event into reality. Thank you to the special sponsors, especially thank you to the NSTC and the Taiwan Tech Arena, National Development Council, the partners on capital market, the Taiwan Stock Exchange, the top computing partners, Google Cloud, and Master Concept, the AI infrastructure partner from AMD and OpenAI, the cross-border payment partners from their wallets. Also, we want to thank for the operational growth partners from KPMG Taiwan, Salesforce. Also want to express the best attitude and also the great appreciation to Brian Huang from Taipei Law, Shikan Taiwan, and also EC Car. We know outside of the building is very hot. And that's why we need free, made by Taiwanese ingredient, the next gen of ice cream. Viva! Did you try it? Then they have to try. That is very healthy. Okay, after eating, what comes after? The sweat. Founders work super hard. So definitely there's a lot of obstacles. That's the reason why we need Taiwan to get through all the obstacles with this crazy alcohol, the Taiwan brand. Taiwan, thank you again for supporting us. Okay, if you want something lighter, who just got recently mentioned by Jason Wang, the Taiwan, another try, the best beer, Taiwan beer. Cheers! I know, some people might have drink apple. It's okay. We have the sparkling water, the heaven, which is the Taiwan taste. Definitely, you need to try. You can say hydrogen. Our belief is to build a startup to global from day one. One of the things that we are most proud of is that SparkLabs is what from SparkLabs is our international DNA. Thanks to AI, the world is flatter, but the competition is sharper. It's even difficult because startups that scale internationally not just survive, they lead the wave. So that's the reason why we always say, dreaming, go global. I always say, it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to raise the star. We need more like-minded partners to join us. So we need you to achieve our mission together to make the world a better place. Finding a good company is very challenging. That's the reason why we fly to many places to find the next unicorn. But this is not a privilege from SparkLabs. You can also find your unicorn. Trust me. Where's your unicorn? Everyone, please grab under your seat. There's a unicorn under your seat. Take it and hold it. Don't open it yet. You get your unicorn? You get your unicorn? 10 more seconds. The unicorn don't wait. Unicorn's coming. Catch them. You find it? Or no? You not find it? You find it? Hold it, hold it. unicorn. Let's unbox together. 3, 2, 1. Get unicorn. Did you get unicorn? Get unicorn. Please wait for unicorn. I also want to use this moment to take a group photo with you, can I? 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, unicorn! One more time. One more time. Find your unicorn! Okay. That's 5 our unicorns! Yay! Now, you have unicorn in the pocket. So there you go. So the DemoDay hub makes a new chapter for us. It's from AI first innovation to AI in action. Starting from last year, we flew around the globe to find the next unit. Today, the startup you will see is not just building a product. They represent a big shift. The AI can act. The AI can The AI can solve the real problem in the real world. Today, we're gonna have nice startup pitching. We're gonna start up one robot who I met at the GTC in Silicon Valley earlier this year. Agentic. I met the founder during I was in Stanford. The weekend I didn't go out to deliver a sponsor. I went to the conference to get my next week. I also have Ambo Robotics, who is a Taiwan cross US companies that's been together. There's audio number from US UK, who is solving the problem in the music industry. They have been focused Taiwan UK US combination. We have Clippy from Hong Kong and Korea. We have Moral AI from our native Taiwan. We have Nightbot, who is a Korean American and Chinese American who built a company in the US but set up the marketing center in Taiwan, just at GTA. Last Monday, we also have Revita with the Taiwanese based in LA, solving the problem in the US market, man. So we're gonna get that later on. And thank you again. Welcome to SparkLabs Taiwan DemoDay 11. And let's welcome the first baby unicorn. Yeah!
My name is Emily Fang, founder and CEO of Infocus Therapeutics. Over the next 5 years, the pharmaceutical industry faces a massive problem, one of the biggest patent cliffs in its history. By 2030, $300 billion of revenue is at risk, with more than $100 billion exposed in 2028 alone. This is why Big Pharma is spending aggressively to tap into external innovation to fill their pipelines. But the risk is that they can spend billions and still fail to find the next generation of blockbusters. Why is that? Because up to now, most proteins are undruggable, and most drugs in development still target proteins. So what do we do? RNA sits upstream of proteins and is the instruction layer that tells cells which proteins to make and how much. If we can target and drug RNA at this level with small molecule drugs, we can intervene earlier in the disease process and stop the production of those harmful proteins that cause diseases. But the problem and the current bottleneck is that currently, RNA targeting small molecule drug discovery involves brute force screening hundreds of thousands of molecules. And so unsurprisingly, the success rate is very low. And it doesn't allow us to learn from failures. This is why we've built Infocus Therapeutics. It's an AI-native discovery engine for precision drug design, purpose-built for RNA targeting small molecule drug discovery. Our AID platform combines machine learning, medicinal chemistry, RNA biology in the design, make, test, and analyze cycle to create a tight learning loop. The first layer is the data infrastructure layer, with our RNA-specific data and focused chemical libraries. The second layer of the platform is predictive modeling, with algorithms that we've built and adapted internally. We assess RNA interactions with compounds and structure-activity relationships. The third is molecular design and prioritization, where we expand into novel chemical space and we rank and select worthy candidates based on their molecular properties and behavior in the body. The fourth layer, most critical, is human-in-the-loop decision-making, where scientists pressure test the outputs from the platform, and they decide which molecules will have the highest chances of success to become a viable clinical candidate. This is a feedback loop, where with every iteration, we learn from our hypothesis, success, and failures, so that with every iteration, our platform can learn faster. What makes InFocus stand out is that we have a 40 times higher hit rate compared to conventional discovery methods, and 3 times faster iteration loops. 3 times because from molecular design through our platform to animal efficacy, we're able to achieve this proof point in 6 months. And the molecules in our pipeline demonstrate good potency, good bio-oral availability, tolerance, and early in vivo efficacy. InFocus is different from the first generation of AI drug discovery companies. Our platform is designed and adapted to data-scarce RNA problems. With active learning workflow, we protect our novel chemistry, and we're able to consistently deliver higher quality compounds. Our R&D pipeline. Our lead pipeline is in cancer. The goal is that we're building a roadmap of a scalable pipeline with every program becoming a partnered asset. So this is our business model. We're creating drug assets, and we'll partner and license with big pharma partners. We'll focus first on mid and large size pharma companies that rely the most heavy on external innovation from companies like InFocus. Starting in 2027, we will do 2 big pharma deals per year, with upfront payments averaging $20 million per deal. This will lead us to exponential growth. We're confident to achieve this because this is a team of very experienced drug hunters. Collectively, we've previously brought 6 compounds to the clinic. I myself, I spent 15 years in business development, turning early science into pharma partnerships. Kyle is medicinal chemist and our CSO, and he's previously in the AI biotech company in San Francisco called Adam Weiss, where he's worked closely and met Dirk. Dirk is our CTO, and he's built discovery pipelines at big pharma companies like Eli Lilly, Merck, and Corteva. Jeremy is a co-founder of the first generation of AI biotech unicorns, and he helped it to take it from 0 to IPO. Jean-François will take us back to home plate and take the programs into clinical development. And Johnny is our CFO here in Taiwan. We're backed by investors and ecosystem partners who understand deep tech and also biotech execution and what it takes. My conviction is that RNA is the frontier, AID is our platform, and better drugs are the outcome. So I invite you to join my mission here at InFocus Therapeutics, better drugs, smarter. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcin. I'm the CTO and founder of Agentic. In the last 18 months, most of enterprises used to run an AI pilot. And as you guys know, most of them failed. And we kind of know why. Because we call it demo trap. Your agents looks magical in a sandbox. They do all of the crazy things. But once they hit the actual production, it's not so good. Why? They have to deal with messy systems, unstructured data, and broken workflows. The reason is not lack of intelligence. Models are already good enough, like Larry Edgar said. The reason is lack of realistic and reliable infrastructure. And this is where Agentic comes in. We're a multi-agent orchestration infrastructure that every enterprise needs. We provide 3 pillars that make it reliable. 1, adaptive workflows. Agent can adjust whenever the business processes change. 2, production layer, persistent memory, evaluation pipelines, full observability. And 3, top-grade deployment, something that every enterprise needs, on-premise SOC 2, the stuff that gets you past the chief security officer. And using Agentic, almost every single employee in any department can vibe code their own agentic solution by simply chatting. And after they will create their whole team of agents, the same team will keep working even after a year. So let me show you the example of one of our financial customers. Previously, before Agentic, they took 4 humans, 2 to 3 days per one application. And they tried to automate it twice. Once, using the regular RPA systems that broke every single time whenever the bank changed its statement format. And a second time, they tried to build their own custom solution. It took 6 months, lots of engineering power, and at the end of the day, no one was able to maintain it or provide any updates. So what we did at Agentic, we provided a set of agents that help to make the process seamless. 1, for ID verification. 2, for bank statements. 3, for financial health and fraud detection. And all of them managed and orchestrated by a goal-driven manager. We were live in a production in 6 weeks, decreased the processing time from 30 minutes to bang, 30 seconds. 30 minutes, actually. And to govern it properly, it's not only just building your solution. Any enterprise needs to evaluate it, needs to have a full traceability and observability across the whole cycle that changes with every update to the agent. So our business model goes from SMBs, monthly subscriptions, up to multi-year contracts for the big enterprises. In the last 3 months, we actually deployed 3 Agentic solutions to our enterprise customers. We onboarded 200 plus SMBs in Europe, and we are just starting. Currently, we're expanding into Asia. We just signed 2 big customers, one of them largest financial institution in Taiwan, and we are actively expanding into APAC region, looking for financial services and systems integrators. Currently, we have a 2 million ARR, but we're on the trajectory to hit 50 million in 2028. And we're a team of serial entrepreneurs with a long-lasting experience in RPA systems with a successful exit in Silicon Valley. And at the end, I invite you, all of you guys, to build the next generation workforce using Agentic. Thank you.
Good everyone, my name is Jesse, one of the 2 co-founders and CEO of OneRobot. So we are here today to tackle the $50 trillion opportunity of physical AI. So America and Europe, we need to rebuild our industrial and defense base, but at the same time, our workforce is shrinking fast due to population decline. So robots are inevitable. In fact, manufacturers already face severe labor shortages, with up to 8 million manufacturing jobs expected to go unfilled by 2030. However, speaking as a European founder, I can confidently say that we in the West are not ready. because we have the best AI models, right? But physical AI is a deployment race, and we are falling behind. Like most of the capabilities to build and deploy robots right now in the world is concentrated in one single high-risk countries. So we need robots, but we cannot rely on the robots that may compromise our factories and industrial bases. And that is why we are here. So at OneRobot, we are building AI-native US-controlled robots for dual-use application in both manufacturing and defense. First of all, our manufacturing AI is trained on real deployment data from more than 400 factories, which allowed us to design, prototype, and build robots from AI simulation to real deployment. Secondly, we give every single one of our robots a self-driving brain. So our level 4 autonomy allows our robots to move and adjust to different environments flexibly, whether it is like factory floor or warehouses or different terrains and environment. And finally, we have a very strong Vietnam-based manufacturing, which allows us to build and deploy robots at a much faster and cheaper rate than most Western robotic companies. So we start first with, just directly sell the robots, but now we are evolving into like robots as a service subscription for easier mass adoption. We also have, of course, extra customization services for large enterprise clients. So we just launched last year in 2025. We did $2.5 million in actual realized revenue, already profitable. And this year to date, right, like today is early June, we have signed on more than $5 million in new contracts, which is double our revenue last year. We expect to reach $100 million in revenue across both industrial and defense applications by 2030. So today, OneRobot is already trusted by world-class clients like Samsung, Denso, Nestle, VinFast, Nichirin across Asia and Europe. We recently moved our headquarters from Switzerland to Silicon Valley as we're expanding into the US market. We have also successfully built important partnerships with physical AI leaders, including with NVIDIA, Intel, Advantech here in Taiwan, Gone, and AdLink. So we have two founders, and our founding team have deep experience in both manufacturing and robotics. So before OneRobot, I built and exit one of the most popular sustainable manufacturing brands in Europe. And I have over 12 years of experience in international supply chain and manufacturing. My co-founder's son is one of the most respected robotics and autonomous system expert in both Japan and Vietnam. He was one of the founding engineer of Toyota self-driving department. And of course, we are backed by SparkLabs Taiwan, best investor in the world. That's why we're here, very honored. And as well as Fenica Group, which is one of the largest industrial conglomerates in Southeast Asia. We're also backed by Jeffrey Lonsdale, ex-managing director of Founders Fund in Asia and a very early investor of Palantir. And right now, we are closing a new funding round with top investors from Silicon Valley, Taiwan, Vietnam, Japan, and Europe. So once again, thanks for having me here today. I'm Jesse from OneRobot, and hopefully together we can build physical AI for the next industrial revolution from the east to the west and back. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Huang. I am the founder and CEO here at Nitra. Nitra, what we're doing is we're building the AI native operating system for healthcare practices, primarily in the United States. So just a little bit of background on healthcare in the US here. Healthcare constitutes roughly about $5 trillion of GDP. So what that roughly means is that about $1 in $6 in the US is currently spent in some form of the healthcare industry, whether it's in hospitals or the biopharma industry, whatever the case is. One of the big challenges, I think, in the healthcare space is that roughly 25% of healthcare expenses, so about $1 trillion a year, is currently spent on some form of repeatable automation that happens in hospitals overall. And so these are things like billing, administration, checking for authorization with insurance, all these different tools that sort of exist, I think on the back end have really been sort of papered over by manual processes and by traditional financial tools. And if you think about sort of a typical hospital, what they're doing is they're essentially stitching together multiple sort of traditional legacy solutions. So these are things like credit cards from American Express or lending solutions from individual banks, expense management solutions from companies like Bill.com or SAP, and then buying specific drugs or equipment specifically from companies like McKesson, Henry Schein, Allergan, or others that really kind of create a very disjointed and challenging opportunity for hospitals in the country. At the same time, on the healthcare side, you do see a huge fragmentation of individual software tools that each individually do different things. So on the patient management side, companies like Athena or eClinicalWorks, EHR, so electronic health record solutions, or billing and insurance solutions, really provide an extremely disjointed opportunity, especially when paired with many of the horizontal financial tools that exist out there. And so at Nitro, what we do is we build an all-in-one comprehensive financial platform for independent practices and clinics and hospitals who are really trying to kind of stitch together a all-in-one solution to be able to handle credit cards, payments, insurance billing, accounting, and other administrative tools, really for the next generation of healthcare practices. So at Nitro, what we do is we kind of have three major divisions in the company today. First is our FinTech division, where we provide credit cards, payment processing, banking solutions, insurance billing and processing, specifically for hospitals and clinics. What we did actually last year was, in addition to looking at the FinTech solutions, we looked at what people were purchasing, right? So these are things like biopharmaceuticals, medical and surgical equipment, and built an entire e-commerce engine specifically to help doctors and hospitals really try and identify and the lowest prices specifically for many of their particular products. And then finally, we built up an AI division that does everything from AI-based accounting, procurement, payments, staffing, and recruiting for our hospitals overall. And when you look at the sort of ecosystem of providers between a doctor and a clinic and all the different constituents, right? So whether it's the biopharma companies, the surgical equipment companies, healthcare employees, patients, and other providers, I think, in the ecosystem, what you can see here is that there are various different ways in which we can leverage software and financial tools to be able to create the right workflow capabilities and really build that all-in-one kind of comprehensive solution for our providers. And so what we did essentially when we were building the company here was to really combine all the different ways that doctors get paid and all the different ways that doctors can spend money and are able to essentially kind of combine those into different solutions. And in every case, we combine a core financial service, let's say like a credit card, with some software like expense management and then some level of AI, let's say like automated accounting or some form of automation that helps drive these outcomes. NitroMart is a good example where, as you mentioned, we were essentially bringing together everything together where you can provide and use your Nitro card to transact at NitroMart and really be able to kind of combine these solutions into one singular and all-in-one place. And really kind of the AI solutions here touch everything you can think of, right? All the things we were talking about before, AI finance, claims management with insurance, patient management capabilities, and procurement capabilities that really unify financial operations, procurement operations, patient management, and overall kind of operations, I think, for a particular clinic overall. Nitro over the last several years has grown quite tremendously. These are our transaction volumes as we've seen them over the last several months. We've grown quite a bit just in the last year or so. In 2025, we grew over 700% in terms of our transaction volumes we do for our customers. And then finally, between myself and Jonathan, we are multi-company unicorn founders For us at Nitra, this is our second venture-backed business ever, taking our first company through an IPO. And we're very excited, obviously, to kind of bring together our experience as well as one of the biggest industries in America and really bring a lot of innovation there. And so that's Nitra. We are building the all-in-one category-defining financial operating system for American healthcare. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jung Kim, CEO and engineer of Clippy. Right now, businesses are losing deals to faster AI-native competitors that didn't even exist 12 months ago. These competitors are running AI agents that does the job of an entire sales team, so their actual sellers just focus on closing deals. While traditional teams are still wasting time, more than 100 hours per month per seller doing the same work manually. And that's 60% of their time spent away from their customers. With AI, speed is no longer a productivity issue, but a revenue issue. So businesses have two options to catch up. Hire more, pay more, stay manual, or patch together AI point solutions, one for each sales process. But both options fail the same way. Now the sellers have 9 new tools to learn, while managers are still struggling to connect everything to everyone into one smooth process. And that's where we come in. Clippy is an AI chief revenue officer that turns every seller into a 10-person sales team. One united system, runs 24/7, up and running in 5 minutes, runs on a proprietary model trained on world-class sales strategies and real scenarios, comes with best practices ready to install in a single click, and talks to both the new AI agents and the legacy systems through a unified MCP gateway. So here's how it works. Delegation. Your sales operations in one click. Playbooks built from your industry's best practices and SOPs you want your sellers to sell with. Install once, then Clippy runs it in the background on every deal forever. Making sure everybody follows them on every email, every message, and every meeting. Next, the seller engine. This is where Clippy adds the work of a 10-person sales team. Clippy captures every single conversation, takes notes, updates the CRM, finds the next move, all in the background, all following the playbooks you just installed. So seller's day becomes a simple yes or no. New leads, proposals, follow-ups, meeting briefs, all prepared. Key actions first. So sellers just need to review, approve, then move on. Always ready for the next meeting, yes or no. Next, hey Clippy, your AI Chief Revenue Officer, ready to consult anytime. It knows every single detail of every deal with expert knowledge in sales strategies and frameworks. So, deal priorities, win-loss patterns, next quarter strategy, turning the winning patterns into new playbook, you can do it straight from the chat. Any question about any deal, full context, instant. So why now? AI agents are smart enough they can do the work of almost anyone inside the team today. But out of the box, these agents are just like fresh hires, not ready to work seamlessly in an existing teams and existing operations. Clippy removes this problem for sales by turning everything into a simple yes or no for every seller instantly. So making sure AI fits right into how people already work. Cursor did this for programming, Lovable for websites, Harvey for legal. And that's exactly what businesses actually pay for. Results yesterday, not new features next month. And we're doing this for sales. And currently, this is a $145 billion market growing more than 20% every year. And our moat compounds in 3 ways. Every deal customers close, it makes our model smarter. Every playbook becomes a new plugin, and every operation we run for our customers makes it harder for them to replace us. So every day, Clippy becomes smarter, easier to use, and stickier. And we're already in motion. We have around more than 4,000 users across 53 countries already running their businesses on us. And our revenue grows when our users scale. We start with where we win the fastest, so B2B SaaS and IT services. Then we replicate this through these IT firms as our solution partners. Our revenue model, subscription per seller, plus usage as Clippy does more job for more deals. And our current target next year is $2 million ARR. Now the team, 3 people acquiring thousands of users across the globe with our very own product. Before Clippy, I had 2 exits in 14 years, building and selling foundational AI as a CTO doing sales. My co-founders, Tina, leads global growth and operations, and Joey leads product and experience, backed by SparkLabs Taiwan, UBS, and Google Cloud. And here's where we need you. We're looking for strategic investors and partners that can help us build enterprise use cases and deepen our US penetration together. Every seller paired with their AI CRO, that's the next era of sales we're building. Let's chat. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Phil, CEO and co-founder of Moro AI. A senior engineer is walking to the fab at 2 a.m. The quality issues happen. He knows exactly what to do because he has done it for thousands of times. But the next year, he retires, and knowledge just walks out the door with him. For manufacturers, this is no longer staffing issues. It is a direct business risk. Quality loss, downtime, slower troubleshooting, and struggle to replace the expertise that already built for decades. Take machinery industry, for example. The machinery scrapping is critical to equipment performance and long-term precision, while it still relies heavily on human experience, and it is just a tip of the iceberg. Across all the manufacturing, it is a $1.5 trillion problem. For manufacturers, even factory generates terabytes of data. It's still hard to make decisions. Why? The data scatters through all the disconnected systems and trip inside of humans' head. The problem has never been a lack of data. The problem is how to use it. And this is why we built Moro AI. Moro AI, an AI agent platform built for manufacturing. We start from integrated structured data, ERP, MES, together with unstructured data, SOPs, reports. On top of that, we built 20+ agents that really understand the manufacturing workflow and factory logic. So for machinery industry, we solved their problem. Now, critical scrapping knowledge can be preserved through our AI agent. Our agents are able to analyze the scrapping quality, are able to identify the potential issues, and provide actionable suggestions for the engineer to improve the equipment quality. Genetic AI can never do this. So behind our agents are our domain-specific AI and large model built on proprietary data from 5 major industries, and this is our moat. Every deployment we make, our manufacturing intelligence becomes stronger, improving the domain know-how, accelerating the agent deployment, and compounding the data advantage across industries. We charge our customer with platform setup fee, annual platform subscription fee, and additional domain agents based on selected use cases. And we started here in Taiwan, scaled through the thriving ecosystem in manufacturing. Our solution have already been validated in both advanced manufacturing and traditional manufacturing. With our channel partner, NVIDIA and Oracle, we're now expanding our business in US and Southeast Asia. Moro AI's domain-specific AI and larger models serve as the brand of the next generation of the manufacturing. Our future-facing product roadmap aims to become the core decision layer, powering the applications such as physical AI, digital twins, among all the potential problems in manufacturing. We have achieved 8x customer growth, 230% worldwide revenue growth, and we're targeting 10 million ARR by 2028. Our founding team gathering talent from top-tier manufacturing and tech company. And I'm Phil. I'm a PhD in industrial engineering and over a decade experience solving AI in manufacturing. And we're also backed by extraordinary advisors and investors, including SparkLabs Taiwan and Omi Venture, the Silicon Valley-based manufacturing tech VC. More AI, domain-specific AI for manufacturing intelligence. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ace, co-founder and CEO of Audio Number. 90% of the tracks distributed to music streaming services never get registered properly on the publishing side, and that leads to over 20% revenue loss every year. One example we found, an artist earning $3.2 million in total royalties, $2.5 million was paid to their distributor, but $700,000 is sitting untouched in collection societies across the US, UK, and Canada. Unregistered, unclaimed, expiring. This is not an outlier. There are 40 million plus tracks released every year to music streaming services, and although the majority of them are released by independent artists, the lack of collection exists for major label artists as well. It leads to a $2.5 billion gap in unclaimed royalties that grows every quarter. And that's in a global music publishing market of over $12 billion today, set to exceed $16 billion in 5 years. All existing solutions require songwriters to fill out forms, submit registrations, and the result is the same every year, a growing fund of uncollected royalties. They all fail for the same reasons. No data intelligence to know which tracks are the highest priority, and no team or system to recover those funds globally. We built Audio Number to bridge that gap, pairing data intelligence to track unregistered royalties with a global system for recovery. First, the data layer. We aggregate over 9 different sources, normalize the data, and apply a valuation model. The output is a ranked list showing which tracks are earning the most money with the most incomplete registrations. Second, the recovery layer. We don't hand that list back to the songwriters. We sign them, we register them in every relevant territory, and we collect on their behalf, end to end. They never touch a collection society form. We have data on artists from all around the world in every territory, big or small. And we show things like how many tracks have been released once we pull from all of our data sources, how many registrations do we find, and we give you valuations that show things like how much has this catalog earned over time, last 12 months, and how much we project it will earn in the next 10 years and 5 years. We then show you different areas in which the catalog is not registered. And these are the areas in which we can help artists or companies to collect royalties. We have 3 revenue streams. We have a revenue share with the artists and songwriters that we sign, a monthly SaaS for the platform itself, and enterprise metadata licensing for our institutional buyers. We have a 2-sided go-to-market. On the artist side, we surface the highest value targets. We do direct outreach. We don't need an inbound funnel. And on the institutional side, for our SaaS and licensing deals, we leverage our industry relationships over decades, and our target customers are labels, publishers, and catalog funds. Over the last year, we've recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars for artists across the US, Europe, and Africa. And we represent over 4,000 songs today, adding more than $300 new songs each month, and nearly doubling that, or more than doubling that last month to over 700 new songs. Our institutional customers include a Korean major-owned US indie label, a $50 million fund out in LA, distributors in Atlanta and Germany, and metadata licensing deals landing now in Asia and Africa. We are expanding to Asia's hyper-growth music market and have already identified significant uncollected value for a fund in the region with over $400 million in assets. Over the next year, we plan to 10x our roster from 35 songwriters to over 300 songwriters, with proportional growth in metadata licensing and SaaS. I started Audio Number after many years as a songwriter and most recently VP of Engineering at a major music distributor. My co-founder, Dr. Richard James Burgess, was previously CEO of A2IM, American Association of Independent Music, for 10 years and produced platinum gold records for decades. Our advisor, Alan Barkfried, founded Advanced Advisors, and our advisor, Jay Winship, was CEO of MENA, Asia Pacific, and Oceania for Go Digital Media. We are proudly backed by SparkLabs Taiwan and a major strategic investor in the US music business. As I stand here, a song is earning money that its artists will never know. Audio Number, make sure that ends today. Every artist, every play, every cent. Thank you.
So what if the next breakthrough in cancer care is not another drug, but it's making sure patients actually receive the treatment we already know they need? This is true for our friend Becky. Becky was in her early 40s, a young mom, when she was diagnosed with cancer. My wife, Shirley, and I fought to get her the care that she deserved. And yet, with Shirley's background as an oncology nurse practitioner, we were at the mercy of a system that was overloaded, nursing teams that unfortunately were over capacity. And so, unfortunately, Becky fell through the cracks and her cancer progressed. And by the time we got to her surgical oncologist, he had the words, "No family team shall ever hear." We missed the window of opportunity to treat by 2 weeks. 2 weeks. The treatment existed, but the system simply did not move fast enough to save Becky's life. And so, unfortunately, Becky's story is not unique. In today's modern cancer teams, the best ones, they're still doing this manually. A nurse has to look in 6 different systems, collate all that data together into a spreadsheet tracker, just to reference the protocol, and just to understand the next step for one patient. We know she can probably manage 200 patients. And yet, the clinic is overseeing 10,000. You see the problem? No human team can watch every patient, every signal, every day. And every missed signal means clinical risk for the patient and financial leakage for the clinic, often thousands of dollars in missed treatment opportunities each year per patient. Solving this translates a $6.7 billion annual TAM opportunity in the US alone. So we built Provida, the AI command center for modern cancer care. For the first time, clinics can see their entire population in real time. What Provida does is we organize and we integrate with all the source systems, we unify together, and then we apply intelligence to figure out which patient's disease is progressing, who's overdue, who is eligible for a clinical trial. And then we turn that agents at that, turning that clinical intelligence into action. Meet Agent Kate, Provida's agentic nurse. She finds those care gaps and she moves the patient forward. Let me show you. This is an interaction between Agent Kate and a prostate cancer, grumpy one, prostate cancer patient whose cancer has progressed because Pravita has identified that his blood draw is determined that his cancer is progressing, and now we need to get him imaging ASAP.
Now, the next step Dr. Johnson recommends is a PSMA PET scan, an advanced imaging tool that gives a clearer picture. Do you have any questions about that scan?
Wait a minute, I feel fine. I don't need this image.
I understand that you feel fine, and that's a good thing. The PSMA PET scan is a precision imaging tool, like a high-resolution camera that can detect tiny changes that older scans might miss. This helps the care team stay ahead of the disease and preserve more treatment options. Does that help explain why it's recommended?
Okay, so you're telling me this image is going to help me determine the cancer is progressing?
Yes, it can detect very small levels of cancer activity earlier, giving Dr. Johnson a much clearer picture. Would you like us to help coordinate a PSMA PET appointment for you?
Yeah, let's do Tuesday mornings.
Great, thank you for sharing that. I'll note your Tuesday morning preference. I appreciate your time and openness today. I'll be noting your daily Orgovix use, the fatigue you're tolerating, the pattern of your PSA results, and your Tuesday morning preference for the PSMA PET scan. All this will be shared with Dr. Johnson's team, and they'll reach out to schedule the scan.
That's the future of AI in healthcare. Moving beyond the back office administrative functions and into the deep health clinical workflows where patients' lives are actually saved. And it's working. Kate is driving an amazing 68% patient engagement. We're finding cancer progression in 1 in 5 patients and reducing that interval delays from 6 weeks down to 2 days. We're already serving networks of 1,400 providers, 3 million patients, and generating an annual ROI of $4 million plus per year per clinic. We're partnered with 2 of the healthcare giants in the industry, both Fortune 25 companies, in Cencora and Cardinal Health, giving us a strategic path to 5,000 provider networks in their respective areas. We're not building for a single product, for a single disease. We're building a repeatable platform that grows and scales the further we expand into additional specialty areas. And that path puts us on track to end the year at 4 million and over 100 by 2030. I just realized I haven't introduced myself. So I'm Victor Lee, co-founder CEO. And this team has been built for the exact problem. My background, I spent 7 years in the US intelligence agencies building some of the largest data platforms, including NSA's first language model. And since then have built multiple data businesses from the ground up. My co-founder, Shirley, brings the clinical expertise. A Johns Hopkins trained oncology leader, former cancer center director, and awarded America's top nurse practitioner in 2021. Around us is a team of enterprise veterans have built platforms for some of the largest companies in the world. And that talent has attracted capital across US and Asia. So for Becky, unfortunately, the system missed its chance to act. But for millions of patients after her, Pravita is making sure that never happens again. So who's with me and joining me in delivering the next breakthrough in cancer care?
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Anvil Robotics. We're a hardware and software platform that makes it very easy to build and deploy physical AI applications. We're kind of like AWS for physical AI. So I also believe that physical AI is going to be a $1 trillion market, but a lot of the robotics technologies we use today were optimized for something entirely different. We're moving away from a scripted machine in a factory into human-centric environments where these robots need to be intelligent, they need to be safe. There's often dozens of sensors and cameras, and they're being commanded 1,000 times a second. This is a very, very different paradigm of robotics. This is why robotics leaders are pouring massive budgets into building the stack. They're making a technology shift. But as a result, only the best funded players can afford to build and leverage these advanced technologies, effectively shipping physical AI. Everybody else, even talented teams, have to cobble together off-the-shelf robots. They're effectively unable to compete. This is the problem that Anvil Robotics solves. My customers today have to navigate this entire stack themselves, sourcing and evaluating components, designing and manufacturing, building low-level and high-level software just to collect data. We haven't even touched the model yet or deployed. Anvil solves this by providing modular hardware that's easy to customize, world-class software that gets my customers 80, 90% of the way there, and manufacturing that lets them scale from 1 robot to 10 robots to 100 robots, very similar to an AWS instance. Today, you can already buy systems from Anvil. In fact, within a single week, you can collect data and train VLA models end to end. We also support multiple different embodiments, so we're never locking our customers into a single kind of robot. On top of this, we develop core technologies that are important for physical AI that my customers can leverage. It accelerates their time to market and makes them more competitive. Together, this creates a very cohesive platform that's optimized for deploying physical AI. If you think about it, this problem existed before. Back in the 1990s, Yahoo and Google had to build their own data centers, but they were search engine companies. The infrastructure didn't exist then. And if you think about it now, would you rather build Salesforce or Netflix if you didn't have that infrastructure? You'd be spending all this time racking and stacking servers. This is why I go back to the AWS analogy. Anvil is effectively building infrastructure for physical AI. Now, I know this is going to be an incredibly difficult company to build. It's been hard already. But luckily, my co-founder and I are seasoned entrepreneurs. I've built and sold multiple hardware companies. Before Anvil, I started a billion-dollar cloud business that was acquired by Lightning AI. This is my 8th year building in deep tech. My co-founder and CTO, Vijay, he's been building robots for 17 plus years. He's founded and sold a robotics company to Google and advises some of the top robotics teams like Zipline, Google Robotics, and Shinkai Systems. On top of that, we've assembled an extremely talent-dense team across North America and here in Asia. They come from Harvard, Stanford, MIT, but also industrial powerhouses like Quanta, Wistron, and HP. So we have both East and the West on our team. We're also backed by some of the leading investors across Silicon Valley and here in Taiwan, as well as angels who are deeply embedded into the industry. Boston Dynamics, DJI, Figure AI, etc. But I saved the best part for last. Anvil is not just an idea. We currently have hundreds of paying customers. They range from major institutions like NVIDIA to small startups that are backed by Y Combinator and Andreessen. Some of my favorite customers actually in this category because they let me see maybe 6 to 12 months into the future in terms of what these labs are developing. This has proven to us that Anvil is a platform for everybody across big and small. On top of that, we've made all this progress in the last 10 months. The company was founded in July of 2025. We've grown from 2 founders to 28 employees. We've crossed $1.6 million in revenue, and we ship 40 more robots every single month. So my platform is growing and my customers are growing. Today, we're here to raise a strategic round to build out supply chain partners and deployment partners across Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. I believe that Taiwan, Japan, Korea has an extremely important role in terms of an alternative supply chain for physical AI. And we're here to try to make that bridge today. If any of this resonates, my name is Mike. We are Anvil Robotics. Please come find me. Have a good one.
Everyone, this is Mary from SparkLabs. So recently, we see there's a lot of excitement about AI infra and also how open source is going to influence it. So today, we have invited the open source pioneer, Brian, who is also the partner of SparkLabs AI, the former CTO of World Economic Forum. And together, we have invited Joop, the head of startup unpacked at Anthropic, one of the hottest AI companies these days. So let's welcome Yop and Brian.
Thank you.
Wow. I think Edgar should have left the beer and the whiskey actually on the stage,
Yeah,
so
it was supposed to be
we
here.
could turn this into more of a party. But thank you so much for having us. My name is Yop. I lead APAC Startup Partnerships here at Anthropic. Based out of Korea, but I cover the region, so most of my time I actually spend on planes. This is the first time I am in Taiwan for Anthropic, so we are very excited to be here. Very excited that we can share the stage together. Brian, I think as you guys know, Edgar shared a quick intro, but is a GP at SparkLabs. He's also a very sort of big figure in the OpenAI space. But Brian, do you just want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, I've kind of had a career in a lot of different places. I've done startups of my own. I worked in the White House and at the World Economic Forum. I worked at a couple other VC places and had been advisor to a lot of different nonprofits, startups, and open source efforts. And most recently, I was at the Linux Foundation leading initiatives in blockchain technology and secure software supply chain stuff and digital identity. These days, I'm kind of a free-form kind of advisor and I work with Bernard at SparkLabs AI, looking at really a whole lot of interesting new companies coming down the pipeline. And our thesis is really that these are great new tools that enable a lot of completely fresh approaches in different industries. And so we're eager to find stuff that the infrastructure layer that might be really novel applications that are kind of beyond what a lot of people are thinking about today. But also, where does somebody step in to completely reinvent something that actually might be kind of boring and staid or off the beaten path of an interesting opportunity. So if any of you have some interesting ideas, we're still very early stage. Our typical investments are 250K, kind of seed to Series A. But we also really want to see the ecosystem grow in the right way. I've built a career very much rooted in the open source space, touching a lot of different things, but always with a view of what's the kind of technology industry we want to build, right? What's one that helps uplift and see 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 different startups bloom and make for a really vibrant commercial ecosystem rather than just a few big players kind of dominating the landscape. So with that, that's a little bit more about who I am and also what we're trying to do at SparkLabs AI.
I think that segues really nicely into my first question, actually. I think arguably, like because of open source, that pretty much stopped from like one large company from dominating like the web space. The learnings that you received from building an open source for so long, how do you think that translates into the age of AI? Especially because I think in AI, it's become quite clear that, of course, it's very compute heavy. It's a lot of resources. You need a lot of data. You need a lot of energy, a lot of capital as well. So what do you think the learnings from open source has been that translates over?
I think technology domains, right? A product category, whether that's deep in the underlying stack or way up something that faces consumers, tends to go from a really novel domain where you have these pioneers that go into a field to try new things, take a lot of risk, and really figure out what that product category looks like, to something that becomes a mature kind of product category with a whole bunch of different companies offering competing products, to then something that becomes a little bit more infrastructural, something that we take for granted, something that, frankly, the differentiation starts to lessen and the value moves up the stack to the point where it can become completely commodity. In the 90s, there were dozens of companies that had operating systems for the cloud, right, for big servers at the time. And those all kind of consolidated eventually to Linux, right, because the value had moved up the stack. And everybody kind of, well, they started losing out to Microsoft, Microsoft Windows, but they realized they couldn't compete alone. They had to work together and find a new place to turn customer value into revenue, right? And that was the kind of history of Linux, but it's also been the history of cloud technologies like Kubernetes and others. And so we think it's really important that startups in particular have a really clear-eyed notion of where the value lies, right? And too many people mistake things that are hard with things that create value. Just because it's hard to write an operating system doesn't mean somebody will pay you for one as a product, right? The best startups are the ones, in my opinion, who look out there and they see where the trend lines are heading in terms of software getting very commoditized, and go, I'm gonna aim for this place that it's gonna be at in a year or two, and I'm going to aggressively use the pre-existing open source code, even if I have to uplift it, even if I have to improve it. In the AI domain, yeah, open source is across the landscape used in building these models, right? PyTorch, for example, or Apache Spark and other big data management tools, right? But one of the things that has been difficult is data sets, right? You don't have a lot of, and you don't have enough big open data sets that you can use to train completely open source LLMs. For me, this is very similar to the way that we built open source operating systems on top of proprietary chips that ran proprietary firmware, right? Ubuntu, Red Hat, these were all still open source operating systems, even though some of the underlying components that it built on were proprietary. Likewise, I think in the AI space, we will for a long time have a mix of LLM models that are cloud hosted, that are local open weights models, and eventually better and better purely open source models as we get better at training frontier lab performance on top of smaller data sets. But the really interesting landscape, I think, is that middleware tier, the harness tier, where there's a lot of open source excitement now, and where really enterprises are starting to think about, how do I preserve the same degree of optionality that open source software gives me in deciding, switching from one vendor to another, or really owning my infrastructure. Where does that sit in the AI stack? It's probably somewhere closer to the middle than necessarily the underlying LLMs. That really plays in something I hope we talk about into the digital sovereignty concerns that many governments around the world have today.
I think you mentioned proprietary data, and one of the questions that I get asked the most when I speak with founders is always, what is Anthropic going to build next? Because I'm sure folks have seen, like, whenever we release something new, there's always an X storm that happens about, oh, Anthropic killed X number of startups. But I think, like, one of the insights that I've always sort of shared, and I've seen other colleagues at Anthropic share as well, is we do see a lot of the opportunities are in very vertical specific areas. And so especially, like, for example, like Morale AI was just on stage, who has a lot of proprietary data from all these factories. I think those are actually the areas where we see a lot of opportunity as well. So yeah, 100%. I think that's there. I'm curious to ask. There's like a phrase that I really like, where businesses that create more value than they capture, and open source actually seems like the extreme version of that. How do you think about building a company that's generous, but also a company that can actually sustain and become an institution?
So some parts of open source did benefit tremendously from people working out of kind of a charitable interest, wanting to put something out there and get feedback on it, or feel like they were contributing to a greater good. Some things start as weekend hacks that turn into something big like Git. Actually, the Linux kernel started as essentially a weekend hack by Linus Torvalds, right? Because he didn't want to have to go down to the computer lab to use the Unix boxes at the University of Helsinki, where he was a student. He wanted to play with Unix on his local computer. But by and large, the vast majority of open source code is built today by businesses solving a problem, building on top of pre-existing code, adding a little bit to it, and pushing it forward. It's always been part of this kind of virtuous cycle, this commercial ecosystem, right? And that applies to big companies, Google, et cetera, that have invested into it, to companies like Anthropic that contribute quite a bit of open source code and have quite a bit helped the open source ecosystem through Project Glasswing. Full credit for that. But it's always been a part of a commercial model that hasn't needed to depend upon charity or on selflessness to make it work. It has somewhat depended upon companies taking a longer term view than just hitting this quarter's revenue goals, or if you're a public company in particular, trying to manage to some profitability target, right? And it's easier to make the case when interest rates are lower than they are now, perhaps. But yeah, it's always been about finding that sustainability model that works, and it differs from space to space. what we've tended to find are that the most durable types of open source communities are those where there's kind of a neutral core with companies around it delivering value-added products and services, right? Kubernetes is kind of a good recent example of this. For any of you who work in cloud in cloud infrastructure, in managing workload in the cloud, we narrowly avoided a Mac versus PC battle in the cloud by when Google released Kubernetes, but then parked it at a neutral foundation that allowed them to collaborate with Amazon and Microsoft and a whole long tail of other smaller cloud infrastructure providers to say, this is a standard. This allows us to, if everybody runs Kubernetes out there, to take cloud workloads and make them portable from one place to another. And in doing so, they grew the market for cloud and grew the trust of customers. Customers knew that they could move workloads to this infrastructure, and if this month Amazon failed them, they could move it to their workloads to Google. If Google failed them, they could move it elsewhere, right? There was a tremendous amount of economic value created in building that customer trust by having the plumbing, the infrastructure, be open source. And so now this is a very different story for most of you who are startup founders, a different story as well for those of you who are investors. Obviously, you have to be focused on shipping your product, solving your customer problems, and doing that first. But once you get a bit of traction, and once you start to really know who your competition is, and who are the legacy players that you really want to get past and take out, using open source strategically as a way to leapfrog and avoid having to build a lot of technical debt and build a lot of your own code is really important to do.
I'm curious, you mentioned startups, should build fast, they should solve customer problems, etc. In the age of AI where building is just so easy, you can just, like pretty much vibe code with Claude Code. Yesterday, I met a founder who runs 7 Max accounts on Claude by himself. And actually, our #1 Claude Code user globally is this Korean guy who runs 10 Claude Code Max accounts, where he pays for 8 himself, and then 2 the company pays for. But in sort of the age of AI, where building is just so easy, how should founders and startups think about if, for example, there's like a little bit of struggle about traction? Is it we've built the wrong thing versus is it a problem that we need to solve via GTM motions? Because I think one failure mode that I've seen increasingly with founders is rather than just focusing more on GTM, for example, they'll then go back and say, hey, maybe we need to build this new feature, and they'll just go back to the building mode. So how do you think founders should balance that?
So that's a really good question. I think the fact that it's easy to build code today can make it seductive to think that you're building value by throwing Claude Code at a problem and letting it do the hard work. I think that's deceptive. I think using these tools as a way to get a productivity boost for your developers is great, but you still need developers. You still need technologists who know how to translate the problem you're trying to solve into very clear specifications, into tests and evals to make sure that things are working, into guardrails so that the agent doesn't wake up one day and sign away all of your assets to somebody else, right? If you're plugging it into financial markets, and so you still need people who understand how to architect and also how to review what's been built. Now, when you're just starting out, in a lot of cases, the code that you're building, it's kind of okay to make it disposable. It's kind of okay if it works for a couple of customers, it works at a certain degree of scale, but you've got to start planting the seeds for the next iteration, right? Often you'll learn a lot in that first wave to basically set you up for a much more successful second iteration of that. I would just say don't believe that you can get away without having a technical staff. I think that'll serve you up through the point of raising a seed. Probably not a Series A. You have to be thinking about some of the longer term maintainability of the product that you're building. I have seen teams that have token maxed their way to an interesting spot, are adding more complexity, adding more features, flipping back and forth, and then they end up with a product with so much technical debt that they end up not being able to respond when they realize what they actually have to build.
Shifting gears a little bit, I think especially in Asia, you see a lot of countries that are focusing on sovereign AI model efforts. I think Korea is definitely one of them. we have a very big sort of national AI project that's coming up. We have a separate presidential AI senior secretary advisor who focuses just on AI strategy. India as well, of course, has a big sort of sovereign AI effort. How do you think that impacts the founders in the room today? How should founders in Taiwan think about that as they think about just global expansion in general?
Well, I think we need to understand a bit of the drivers for this, right? So, I'll talk about one very positive and one kind of negative. The positive driver is over at Innovex yesterday. I met at the open source team Taiwan kind of booth area. There were two different Taiwan local LLM efforts. They start with Gemma, and they post-train it with a lot of information about Taiwanese culture, the Taiwanese language. Obviously, it's Mandarin, but kind of with the local dialect and other interesting kind of things, so that they end up with a model that is feels and sounds much more like a local speaker. But also, when you have it do translation or do customer support, it feels more familiar to an audience, right? And that's what a lot of countries out there that are starting to invest in either post-training of an open weights model or even doing a full LLM are starting to do. France, for example, has collected a corpus of a huge amount of French language text, all of their laws, all of their cultural kind of artifacts into an AI-ready training set to feed into people who are using models there. And I don't think you have to do completely your own model, but it has to be something you can do post-training on, not just drag, in my opinion, to make it really work. That's the positive kind of angle for why there's this interest in government in building their own LLMs, or at least their own post-trained models. The kind of negative side is I think we're entering a domain where we're no longer naive about the cloud. I think we used to believe that cloud providers existed in some, abstract space that wasn't bound to local law or local regulation. And some of you might have heard about recently, there was an international organization called the International Criminal Court, whose CEO was kicked out of his own organization's Microsoft 365 account because the Trump administration had decided that he was a persona non grata. And Microsoft, as a US company, was forced to stop giving this individual commercial services. And that woke a lot of people in Europe up. They are really careening now towards a future where it's like, how do we make sure, if we ever need to host things on European clouds, but also with European companies, and do that kind of ourselves, that we can do that? Not coincidentally, that is also an interest in many other parts of the world, as kind of the global picture gets a lot less stable than it was before. So both of those things are driving this interest in local enablement. Open source is key to this. I believe that it'll still be the case that, and Anthropic and OpenAI and Mistral, which is a French company, and what I'm sure will be companies emerging out of this region, can still provide AI models as a hosted service, and we'll find ways to deliver that. But there's a layer of optionality that everybody's going to want, and open source will be key to achieving that optionality.
Do you think that optionality and sort of the risks that you just mentioned apply to early stage startups as well? Or do you think that's more of a business or a strategy consideration as you scale up a little bit more?
So it depends on who your customers are, right? If you are in a regulated space, or if you're selling to government, the buyers are getting smarter. The buyers are realizing that where their data lives and where they have the control plane over the business logic is starting to get a lot more critical. They're really having negative experiences with some cloud-hosted services where they feel their data is trapped and they become trapped by the vendor that it's really hard to move out of. In a prior generation, people used to talk about the cost of moving off their SAP installation to some other ERP instance. I don't really want to mention any current names of companies because I want to remain friends with everybody, but there are a lot of the buyers are getting smarter, particularly in Europe, particularly in government circles, with realizing they need that ability to be portable with their data, to be portable with the assets that they're building. And when they're deploying these agents and they're investing agents, for example, with a lot of the knowledge about how their business works and doing actually a lot of business logic at the agent layer, they're going to want to know that the migration from one underlying infrastructure provider to another is not a throw everything away and build over again. And so, as a startup vendor, listen to your customers. Try to understand what their risk models are. Right? What are they most concerned about, especially when they engage with a young company? And the more that you can do to remove that risk, possibly by making that customer less sticky, it might actually buy you a greater pipeline.
Other than regulated industries, what do you think are some of the other reasons why a startup should consider training on an open source or open weight model versus just choosing like an AI vendor?
Well, I think startups should move as quickly as they can to get to figuring out the solution space for their, figuring out whether what they want to build is actually what the customers want to buy. And then secondly, figuring out what's the durable approach to doing that. So I think they should be building on top of Anthropic, or they should be building on top of hosted models with an eye towards what does it mean when they work with a customer who has an enterprise contract with a different provider, right? And so that's I think there's a short-term horizon thing, but once you've gotten your seed or Series A, once you're moving past your first 5 customers to 10, that's when it becomes a little bit more of a strategic consideration.
Yeah, one thing that I've sort of seen. So before I joined Anthropic, I led product at a startup, and we were building analytic solutions for these Gen AI agents and chatbots. And we were deploying our solution into one of the largest insurance companies in Korea. But their sort of expectations at that time, this was, I think, a little over a year ago, was they only wanted a solution that used open weight models. And at the time, I think the SOTA was Llama 3.2, I think was their expectation of like, we need to use the Llama model. But they expected the level performance of like a GPT, right? And I think there were some like understanding gaps at that time versus now, I think as sort of Anthropic does more enterprise motions as well as other AI providers as well. And I think both like the government as well as enterprises are moving to a place where they are becoming more receptive of these AI solutions, even these like closed sort of source vendor providers. And so I think that's also shifted some of the mindset of these enterprises as well as they think about which sort of startups they work with. Do you sort of see that pattern play out as well with the startups or the industries that you engage in?
So there's a lot of capabilities in small models. Not everything needs to be running on the top most expensive frontier model. Even all the frontier labs will tell you, right? And if you're doing just language translation locally or transcription, speech to text, text to speech, if you have some really simple use cases, there's a lot that can be done in 1 billion parameters and 5 billion parameters that you can run on a phone or on a desktop or other approaches. And the trend lines are in the direction of smaller models being more and more capable. That doesn't mean there's not going to be a role for the larger models. And certainly as you're writing code, I think you're going to want that frontier level performance for quite a while. But we're also at a moment where the tokens, sometimes they're getting cheaper over time, but sometimes it's Jevon's paradox, right? Where that drives much more consumption. And we've started to see some pushback from organizations saying our budgets going to tokens are kind of high, right? Uber was the most recent one. So I do think companies, again, move quickly at the very beginning, figure out the product strategy, figure out what you're going to build, get market acceptance, but do start thinking about tuning. How much inference do you do remotely? How much do you do locally? Are there smaller models that you might be able to use for a certain thing? And even are there things that I'm having agents do, like check the price of a stock and trigger an email to me when it goes to beyond a certain level? That really should just be a cron job rather than an agent burning tokens and pulling in context to do a kind of a simple thing, right? Well, have an agent write a cron job for you, right? So we're going to see a lot more sophistication. I think we're already seeing that where people aren't just vibing their way to complete business logic, where they realize that there's a lot of tuning that they'll have to do. And actually, as we move out of this phase where I feel like tokens are being subsidized right now to a large degree, in the same way that Uber rides, used to be subsidized, startups and large companies are all going to have to be smarter about how they tune that. And I've been hearing that from the field.
What are some ways that you keep up with everything that's going on with AI these days? Because there's just so much content out there and so much, it just like moves so quickly.
Man, I have to check my inbox to find all the newsletters that I read, but sometimes it feels like I do nothing but read newsletters because there actually is so much high quality content out there. And I really prioritize listening to the experience of developers on the ground, people writing blog posts, and putting them up on Medium and that sort of thing about their experiences with different models. I really like Ethan Mollick's One Useful Thing, where he writes quite a bit about how business users are using these models now to work their way through a lot of difficult challenges, and the right way that educators, for example, might use these models, or students, are using them in education, right? But I also think it's important to listen to the critics. I think it's important to listen to people like Gary Marcus. You need to be the first to pop your own kind of thought bubble, I think, and be willing to challenge your priors and challenge kind of the vibe to really make sure that you're picking up first on the signals that others eventually are going to get swamped by. So I do read the critics. I don't always agree with them, of course, but I think you have to be intellectually humble enough to be able to listen to those signals if you want to avoid disaster.
For me, I have a scheduled task in Cowork where I will ask Claude to just summarize everything that we've released as a company every single day. Because there was this one embarrassing interaction I had was I was meeting with the founder, and the founder was like, "Oh, like this new feature you guys released is so cool," and like blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about," because it's just like the world moves so quickly, and all the AI companies just release so many things these days, I think. One last question is, what do you think is a superpower that Taiwanese startups and Taiwanese entrepreneurs hold that they should double click on and double down on as they think about global expansion and global competitiveness?
I think the fact that, you guys in Taiwan are already doing the hard part, which is hardware. Software is relatively easy. I mean, I know we all hold, software gods up in the skies as idols to worship, but like, so much high quality software is out there under an open source license and other ways that if you aggressively reuse it, right, and really do your research to find people who've already started to work solving the problems you have, you will be able to move further faster because you already have the automation down. I was so impressed with the robotics companies that we heard about here and others who are moving quickly because a lot of robotics software layers are now being just as commodity available as the Linux operating system. So that allows them to focus on value way up here, whereas 5 or 10 years ago, you might have had to do a lot more building down here. So it's a real leapfrog kind of strategy, and I think folks here are really into it.
Well, with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us until the very last minute. Did you enjoy? I think definitely, like working at a startup is super, super hard. Like sitting in the audience is the most easiest part. But definitely welcome you to give a hand, support our founders, support us. If you know any good physical AI or agentic AI companies, please let us know. If you want to invest in physical AI, agentic AI companies, also contact us. If you want to co-create the whole ecosystem together, also welcome you to join us. This is not like the end of our journey. There's a photo booth outside you can shoot with your unicorn. And if you think your company or the company you invest will be the next unicorn, come join us. We can do something together. Again, appreciate for all the support and all the attention to the early stage startup founders. It's never easy. We know it. And that's the reason why we are here. So thank you again for coming to SparkLabs Taiwan Demo Day 11. I will see you next year. Thank you.